Welcome to Leadership Reimagined, where game-changing conversations are reshaping the world of work. I'm Janice, the CEO and founder of Ellig Group, Executive Search Advisors, where we are reimagining search through our long-standing commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. On today's topic, a CEO that knocks your socks off, I am delighted to welcome Dave Heath, the co-founder and CEO of Bombas, an apparel company who successfully revolutionized the modern sock and is now designing and offering premium performance, comfort, and style across several apparel categories. Bombas was founded with a mission to help those in need, where one item purchased equals one item donated. And they continue to fulfill that mission, always and forever. Dave, it is truly a privilege, and I am delighted you could join us today.
I'm pumped to be here. Thanks, Janice.
These socks are amazing, and you're coming on to your 10th anniversary since co-founding Bombas in 2013.
That's right.
So take us to the beginning and the motivation to launch and introduce Bombas, because you said the charitable aspect was never an afterthought. It was always what sparked the idea.
Yeah, that's right. I went to school for entrepreneurship, and my dad was an entrepreneur. So I think from a pretty young age, I'd always known that I wanted to start and build and run my own company. And so shortly after graduating college, I think I kind of looked at the world through the lens of trying to solve problems through business. And, I kind of dabbled in a few things earlier on after graduating. I worked for a number of startups and kind of tried to learn as much as I could. And, but at the same time, I always kind of walked around with my eyes open, my ears to the ground, trying to look for opportunities to solve everyday problems through, creativity and through the lens of entrepreneurship, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs do. And it just so randomly happened, I was kind of scrolling Facebook in the beginning of 2011, and I came across a Facebook post from the Salvation Army that said, socks are the number one most requested clothing item at homeless shelters. And I remember sitting there thinking, it's pretty sad. Like, here's an item of clothing that I've never spent more than a few seconds a day thinking about, unless I got a hole or my feet were wet. But otherwise, I kind of put my socks on in the morning, and I didn't think about them until I took them off at the end of the night.
Yeah.
And yet, for 600,000 people experiencing homelessness here in the U.S. every single year, this was being perceived as like a luxury item. And that kind of like blew my mind. And so I didn't immediately go, oh my God, there's a business here. I kind of just like sat with it and was like, wow, this thing is sad. Like, maybe I can go buy some socks and donate them or carry them around in my backpack and walking around New York City and hand them out. And it, at the same time, I was obviously very interested in entrepreneurship, and I followed, entrepreneurship media, and, I saw what Blake Makowski at Tom's was doing and really kind of revolutionizing this new business model of buy one, give one with their shoe company. And that's kind of when the two things clicked together. And I was like, it's like, maybe I can use this same model that Tom's is using for shoes and apply it to a sock business that could donate a pair of socks for every pair of socks that we sold. Not really thinking that it would be nearly what it is today, but I thought, maybe this is like a fun little hobby business, and I'll see where it goes.
That's an interesting beginning because, you're saying we'll dabble in it, but look what you turned it into. So what are some of those building blocks of the business? And I did see you on Shark Tank, the segment, with your co-founder, Randy Goldberg. And all the sharks basically said, oh, no way, I'm out. No, not enough of a margin, except Damon John, who comes out of the apparel business and has done a pretty good job. And he signed on with you. So what was it like trying to raise the capital for, where you're going to take one and give one away? That's not usual for a profit-making organization to do.
Yeah, I think what was interesting about our story and kind of originally launching without the idea that it would be this huge thing is we kind of, bootstrapped it to start. I spent a year and a half working on the product development before I'd, even sold a single pair. We spent a lot of time with Randy and our other co-founders thinking up kind of the name and what would the brand stand for and how we'd want it to show up visually. And our whole idea was like, all right, this is this like fun little project. Let's see where it goes. We launched it on Indiegogo in August of 2013. We set out a very aspirational goal of selling $15,000 worth of product, which is kind of what we needed in order to place our first production run. And we ended up selling $25,000 in our first day. And we went on to do 150,000 for the full 30-day period that we kind of would run this campaign. And so we're like, whoa, this is like clearly there's more interest or demand for this kind of mission giving product that also revolutionized like the average everyday kind of sock into this much better, higher quality item. Um, and we kind of built it from there, right? We said, like, all right, let's build a website. Let's take the product. Let's start shipping it to customers, see what they think. Do they come back? Do they rebuy? Do they tell their friends about it? And can we try to grow this thing organically as much as possible without having to go out and raise, a bunch of money? Because again, about 10 years ago, if you think the landscape has changed dramatically, right? Like, I feel like in the last 5 years, you could write a mediocre idea on the back of a napkin and some venture capitalist out there would give you $3 million for it. But, early on, once we'd probably achieved, I don't know, $500,000 of sales in our first 6 months. And I was like, I watched Shark Tank. So I was like, oh, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
So I went out and started talking to investors, and I was like, oh, we're not trying to build, we don't think this is going to be $1 billion company or, any of these crazy things that we were seeing. I was like, oh, we'll just try to build a good, profitable business and maybe sell it one day. And nobody bought into the dream, right? Like everyone was like, nah, we're past, like it's not big enough. So I ended up raising a bunch of, small angel investment checks from a bunch of people who did believe in us. And then we got pitched for Shark Tank, and then we ended up airing, and the business completely took off shortly after airing. And, we kind of like built it from there.
Yeah, and your socks are different in terms of how you construct them, and you've made them really attractive because, you look at the ads on TV about Bombas when you was first starting, it's like, old socks are just socks, right? But you changed the design, and you've made them attractive too. Was that in the beginning, or did that evolve?
No, we always thought that that was part of it, right? We thought, all right, if we're going to succeed, and the philosophy or drive of the company was, look, we obviously want to donate a lot of socks, but in order to donate a lot, we need to sell a lot. But if we're going to sell a lot, then we obviously have to create a product that the customer really wants. And so that's when we started saying, okay, there's kind of two pillars to the business. There's the mission, which we're giving back to this underserved community, but then there's also this incredibly high quality product. And where we kind of landed on the product was we realized that the mass market athletic sock hadn't changed in 50 years, right? It was mostly dominated by the big mass market brands, the Haines's, Fruit of the Looms, Jockeys, private labels, things you'd buy in a 12 pack in a plastic bag at Walmart. But yet, in the performance side of the world, performance running, cycling, marathons, hiking, basketball, there was a lot of performance and innovation happening in that smaller sector. And my thought was, well, I'm on my feet all day, right? I climb up subway stairs and run around the city. Like I'm why are athletes the only ones who should feel comfortable and supported all day long? And so I was like, why don't we take all of this technology and innovation that's happening in the premium athletic world and bring it to the mass market consumer and convince them that there is a better product that they could be wearing every single day for a marginal increase over what they're kind of spending on these kind of lower cost commodity type products. That was our general hypothesis. And, fast forward, we're almost 10 years later, and, 85 million items sold and 85 million items donated. We've clearly struck a chord with people.
Yes, you certainly have. And, even in my work of executive search, people want to go to purpose driven organizations, and so certainly yours is one people want to work there. And I see as a startup, you really never have had high turnover. And so I would ask, what do you attribute to attracting and retaining a strong workforce while you were a startup, hyper growth, not having high turnover? Why do people want to work at Bombas?
I think a very large element, which was true in the beginning and is still true to this today, there is a segment, and I'd argue a growing segment of the workforce that wants to feel like their job contributes to more than just creating profits for shareholders.
Right.
They want to make sure that when they're waking up every day, or when they're looking their kids in the face every night, that they feel like they're leaving the world a slightly better place than they found it when they woke up that day before. And so I think we deliver on that, right? Every single employee knows that they are playing a part in contributing these much needed items to people who truly have nothing. And, I think from an early days, it wasn't just about, oh, come work at Bombas and we donate a pair for every pair that we sell. It was, come work at Bombas. Not only do we donate a pair for every pair that we sell, but we're setting up volunteer opportunities for you to be able to go out before work, during work, after work, whatever, accommodates to your schedule, to actually go and have hands-on direct impact in the communities where we all work and live. And that connection to the community, that connection to seeing the impact quite literally firsthand, really embeds in the employee. Wow, like I am making a difference. And I think on top of that, like not only like do we have this great mission component, I think I took the experience that I had in my 20s, working for other companies, the good companies and the bad companies. And I said, what made me a happy employee and what made me an unhappy employee? And I found that the formula was pretty simple, which was, treat me like I'm part of the company, like trust in me that I can, you know, be along for the journey and share in kind of the challenges that the business is facing, as well as the wins that the business is facing. Um, Trust that I'm also like, if you chose for me to work here, then you have like trust that you've chosen a good person, and that I'm not here to sneak a sick day every now and then to go like play games by myself, or whatever, or that I'm like manipulate, that I'm working other jobs, or like there was places I worked where there was so much distrust, in like, where are you, why weren't you here right on time, why did you take an hour lunch, like all these things. And I'm like, I'm choosing to work here, and I'm choosing to like devote my time, like treat me with some of that respect. And I think early on we said we're going to be fully transparent on everything going on in the business, whether that's financial performance, whether we're going to do capital raises, whether we're, hiring new people, whatever we're doing, we wanted to bring every employee along for the ride. And then we also treated people like human beings and realized that people's lives outside the office were oftentimes more important than their lives inside the office. And it's a really big fundamental shift, I think, when you can see your employees as human beings and realize that their pets get sick, they have breakups, they
Hmm.
do, they have floods in their apartments, right?
Right.
None of these things that they want to go through. So if you say, I'm going to create a little bit of space for you to be able to deal with the challenges that life naturally throws us, the amount of gratitude and loyalty that you get back is profound. And I always said, if you want to attract the top talent always has an option to go work anywhere because they're the best, right? The
That's
best
right.
people always have places to work. And I said, so then it's my duty as the CEO and the employer of this company to do whatever I can to make these people as happy as possible. Um, and I think that's just a general philosophy that we've adopted, and I think that's translated into, you know, why we continue to attract and retain, the best people.
My dear and good friends Edward Sullivan and John Baird wrote a book, Leading with Heart, and it knocked my socks off. and I actually and I actually did a webinar with John on the book, and you are noted there as a leader, as being truly inspirational and how to lead, so what you're talking about here and how to make people feel. And you're referenced in numerous publications as genuine, insightful, curious, and an empathetic leader. So I don't want you to blush, but Edward Sullivan said, and I quote from the book, Dave has some kind of CEO pixie dust trail that leaves the people in his wake feeling validated, motivated, and if possible, even more committed to the company than they were before. So it sounds like this is part of your DNA and you learned it from corporate America, and that's what you're trying to do at Bombas to build this culture?
Yeah, I mean, I believe that these things can be learned, right? Because I think I learned them mostly through my own experiences and remembering how it felt, on the positive side to be recognized and seen or appreciated by my manager or company, as much as I remember the feeling of despair and, lack of self-worth or lack of trust if a company treated me poorly. And I took kind of I was very cognizant of remembering what it was like to be an employee. And I said, well, I'm always going to operate this company looking through the lens of every employee, every level, and realize that as the leader of this company, I have the influence to be able to shape, how, our people show up every single day. And I said, this was something that me and my co-founders decided early on. We said, look, we're building out this business plan. We can make our best guesses at what we'll do from a financial success and top line revenue and profitability, but ultimately the market will determine whether they want our product or not. The one thing that we absolutely can control is how we treat the people who show up and work here every single day. That
Mm,
is the thing that, regardless of big financial success or moderate financial success, that's the one part of our destiny that we have 100% control over. And we just reminded ourselves of that. And so, we've always shown up and operated the business through that lens, and I think it's led us to a really great place.
yeah, and I know your head of HR, Carrie Chandler, very well, and I know she loves working there, and others do as well. So I just want to give a quick reminder to our audience that you're listening to a CEO that knocks your socks off with Dave Heath, co-founder and CEO of Bombas. The topics we cover, like today's, are all current, and a new topic with a new game changer is released every month. This is a great way to stay current on relevant issues happening around you. And now we're going to return to Dave Heath. So, Dave, let's talk about Bombas, the name, and the bumblebee logo. And inside each sock, you have stitched in "Be Better." So, what drove this? The name, the bumblebee, why as a symbol?
So it was very intentional. One of my co-founders is a creative. He worked at a bunch of agencies, and we kind of gave him the charge. We said, look, we need a name, we need a symbol, and we need kind of a brand architecture that represents the altruism that is naturally built into, the business model of giving product away to, an underserved community. And so he came back and he said, look, I've landed on two animals that are naturally altruistic outside of human beings. He said bumblebees and ants. And we just universally agreed that bumblebees are probably more marketable than ants. So he presented us and he said, the Latin word for bumblebee is bombas, Bombus. And
Mm.
we said, okay, well, if you Google bombas, you get a lot of like beekeeper information and, all this like random bee stuff. We said, all right, how do we make it ownable? So we changed the U to an A. So it's Bombas. And so it's derived from the Latin word for bumblebee. And bees are, like I said, naturally altruistic animals. They work together as a hive and they're small creatures, but they have a large impact on this world. And we like the idea that socks are a small clothing item, but to somebody who really needs it has a large impact, on their life and their day. So and then we kind of evolved, be better, which is spelled BEE, better, as kind of our tagline, which is this idea We kind of call it like our version of Just Do It, but it's just a simple reminder that as you're putting on a pair of our socks, a pair of our underwear, or even one of our t-shirts, this idea is knit into all of our products. And it's the simple idea that like every day you can show up to be a little bit better, whether that's to your spouse, whether that's to your employers, to your community, to your friends, whoever it is, or maybe it's be better in whatever activity you're pursuing. Um, we like this as this kind of gentle reminder to just try to be a better person.
I love it. It's one of the campaigns said better socks, better world, be better. And I love to put my socks on at the end of the day. It's sort of and I do, you go home and you just relax, and I don't walk around barefoot. I love to have socks on. And to see that be better on it is a gentle reminder that you can impact the world. So I think it really has huge impact. And the more that you sell, the more the word spreads. So where are you today on, not just the socks, but other apparel? Can you give us an idea of sales and where you are and what the growth trajectory is? And then what does that mean for donations to the needy?
Yeah. So we're 2 years ago, we launched underwear, which is the second most requested clothing item at homeless shelters, and t-shirts, which are the third most requested clothing item. I think for the time being, you know, for the foreseeable future, we don't really have any plans to go much beyond the three kind of top drawer categories, right? These are the three items that typically put on first thing in the morning, the three items you take off last at night, the three items you wear closest to your body. And for that
Hmm.
same reason, because these are the three items you wear closest to your body, for those experiencing homelessness, it's also the items that they end up wearing through a lot faster. Socks specifically, if you're experiencing homelessness, your main mode of transportation is walking around everywhere. And you're afraid of someone stealing your shoes, so you keep your shoes on at night. And all of these things add up to major foot hygiene problems. The same thing with underwear. If you're not changing your underwear frequently or t shirts, like they start to smell, there's a dignity aspect. So, our ability to provide the top three most requested clothing items to homeless shelters, which are specifically designed for the homeless community, right? We don't just buy some cheap product and donate that. We take the same level of design, attention, and care that we put into our consumer facing products as we do into the products that we donate for the homeless community. We actually refer to the homeless community as our non-paying customers because we still view them as customers. They just aren't buying the product from us. They're receiving it in a donated aspect. So from a product expansion and from a donation perspective, right, we're still staying true to the buy one, give one, socks, tees, and underwear for kind of the foreseeable future. As a private company, we don't always disclose our sales revenues,
Right. Mhm.
but we do kind of disclose our impact in kind of items donated. And so, as I mentioned earlier, we've accumulated about 85 million items donated over the last 9 years.
That's wonderful. I did watch, Damon John distributing T-shirts with you, and, people were so grateful, and I love the fact that you call them non-paying customers, and it was very heartwarming, and, I know Damon is also very philanthropic, so it's a really good video of what you're doing to help people who can't pay for these things. We take it for granted, right? You really have differentiated your business and really thought creatively about how to do that. What would you say to other entrepreneurs in terms of the lessons you learned and what you would impart to them in terms of having healthy competition, but really differentiating your business? Are there lessons you can share?
Yeah, I think, A, being focused, right? And not trying to be everything for everybody, right? Figure out where you can find some level of differentiation.
Hmm.
Um, and I think one of the benefits that me and my co-founders had in starting this business was we didn't come out of the apparel industry. I worked in media and software sales prior to starting Bombas. And so we kind of came in, and what we always, this is kind of now one of our kind of core values as a company, which is, operate through the lens of the customer. And that again even applies to our non-paying customers, which is how we ended up designing our donation product. But always look through the lens as a customer and try to be as critical of the product, of the site experience, of, if you had to interact with customer service, what would you want that experience to be like? And we applied that lens to basically everything that we did while staying extremely focused. I mean, to think about it, for the first almost 8 years of the business, we sold only socks. Right? We didn't have underwear, we didn't have t-shirts, and this was a multi-$100 million business in just the socks category alone. Now, periods of time, we were certainly challenged to say, "Oh, we're so successful, we're very profitable, we've achieved more than anybody else has done in this category. We should produce way more product. Let's start selling sweatpants and sweatshirts and running shorts." And we had all these ideas of things that we could naturally expand the brand to. But we said, we're good. We're really good at selling socks. And eventually we did. We kind of earned the credibility, with the customer to say, all right, what's next? We're ready for some more products. And that's when we naturally decided to go into underwear, and then naturally into t-shirts after that, because those products kind of, typically go together. We didn't try to go after everything or be everything for everybody right out of the gate. And so I think that was really, really helpful. And then I think the other part is, being incredibly authentic and genuine. And part of that is from a very early on. I mean, I think literally within the first few months of like even launching the business, me and my four co-founders sat around and we wrote down on a piece of paper what seems like a really silly exercise at the time, because there's only four of us, and we're like, we kind of know what values we believe in. But we sat down and we went through the exercise of writing down our core values, the things that would help us make decisions, and the values that we would never compromise on when challenged with tough, difficult decisions, which we've been faced many times over the years. And the guiding light has always been, look at our core values. What is important to us? Which ultimately means what's important to our customers, our employees, and our community that we serve. And it has always led us to make the right decision. And so being incredibly authentic and genuine around the values that you have, and an unwavering resilience to never compromise on those.
Right. So those were the non-negotiables. You would not, those were sacrosanct to where the business should be. Was it difficult for four individuals, co-founders, to agree on this?
Weirdly not. I mean, I think because values are oftentimes intrinsic to how a person shows up, right? It's
Right.
very rare that you will have someone who values altruism or doing good that will then go work for an oil company, right? Like it's just like, so I think naturally the four of us, we were galvanized by this idea, because I think it pulled on the strings of our own personal values. So to sit around the table and then agree, hey, we should take care of the customer, we should produce a great quality product, we should treat our people well, and we should take care of the community, wasn't like super hard to get the
Right.
four of us aligned on those values, because that's why we were here building this company. But when we were faced with challenges around, oh, we can save some money if we produce this product over here, or if we change the packaging to X, Y, and Z, or if we reduce the quality of the donation but we would say, yeah, maybe we could save some money, but let's look at our values. Our values are produce a high quality product. Our values are take care of the community. Let's those decisions to make something slightly cheaper at the expense of our values, like we're not going to do that because remember, we chose that these values are important. And then we'd all sit around the table and go, right, right, right. We shouldn't even be discussing this.
I think that's such a good exercise for everybody to do. I am on your site right now looking at the gifts for Christmas, the stocking stuffers, and your socks and other slippers and other things here are so attractive. And you're saying, buy a gift, do a stocking stuffer, and, it'll be whether you're treating yourself or a loved one, every comfy item you purchase will be matched with a donation to someone experiencing homelessness. And then you're giving 20% off too. But these are really attractive gifts. So after we get off, I'm going to go and buy all of these for stocking stuffers.
Get them soon because they'll sell
They'll
out.
sell out. And you do it, for children, and you've got also for the athlete and friends. And so it's really categorized very well. Do you expect this to be a good holiday season for Bombas?
Yeah, I mean, so far we're definitely seeing this being a very strong season, despite I think an otherwise challenging year overall for the economy, which is obviously no secret to anybody who follows the news, right?
Right.
So record inflation, high gas prices, rising interest rates. The consumer was definitely a little, I think, wary for the majority of the year. But it's interesting. I also think, you know, because of social media, or because we have kind of an always on news culture. um, you know I was never somebody that waited for a promotion to buy, because I was like, if I want the gift that I want to give, I'm just going to buy it. I don't want to risk it selling out. But this year I waited because everyone told me, all the news publications, like, oh, there's going to be huge promotions this year. um, we ran the same promotion that we've run every single year.
Hmm.
I believe that promotions are a very slippery slope. Once you kind of put that drug into the vein, it's very, very hard to take it out. And I think long term has longer term brand implications. If all of a sudden you're 50% off or 60, look at what happened to the Gap over all these years. And we're just treating this as a somewhat of an anomaly of a cycle, right? It's a corrective period. But despite that, despite running the same promotion, I think we had our biggest days. Certainly, we'll have our biggest holiday that we've ever had.
That's terrific. In your final parting words, as a CEO of Bombas, as one of the founders, how has it shaped you? How has it made you view the world? And what do you want your legacy to be?
Oh man. First of all, I think I'm too young to start thinking about my legacy. I'm only 39 years old, so I think I've got a few more decades to think about my legacy. Um,
You already have one. You can have
um,
many.
I've
You
got
can have many.
I've got
Yeah.
a lot more. I've got a
Yeah.
lot more fuel left in the tank
Yeah.
to continue to do more good in this world. So, I think one of the biggest lessons that I've taken away is that you know acts of kindness don't need to be these grandiose things, right? It doesn't need to be a big check that you write. It doesn't need to be, a big program that you commit to volunteering X number of hours every, month to. You could start small. Small impacts have, add up to have large impacts, right? And, you know, I always tell people, even the simple act of saying hi or smiling or waving at or recognizing someone experiencing homelessness, for instance, and it's something I experience every day in New York. A lot of people just walk by, right, which eventually makes these people feel invisible. And even if I don't have a pair of socks or a toiletry bag or anything to give them, um, I'll simply say, like, "Hey, how are you doing today?" And you always see this, whoa, like the smile. "Hey, good. How are you?" Like you start to. It's a real, genuine human interaction, and that was free, and it took 2 seconds, right? So I think I learned that small acts of kindness add up to big impacts and movements, um, and so just get started in the smallest way possible, whether it's, you know, getting involved in a local charity, whether it's donating $5 to a cause that you care about, There's these really interesting things called giving circles now, which you can sign up on, Grapevine and find all these things where you pledge $1 a month, right? And, you're now part of this group of people that, are contributing larger dollars to organizations. So, I think that's probably my biggest takeaway. And especially, I think, holiday period, right? I think a lot of people feel more inclined to give in the holiday, and that's great, but giving needs to happen all year round. Right? Don't just make it a one time a year thing. The charities, the giving organizations, they get overwhelmed actually this time of year. And then come February, they're like, they need a lot more resources, either in donations or volunteers. So remind yourself that giving should be something that you do always, and not just a one time a year.
It's so true, and how the world would be such a better place if we keep that in mind. So, again, the "be better" stitched into every sock or other item from Bombas is that gentle reminder. I'm going to also say that I'm looking at your website again. You got the digital gift card for this holiday. So a great way for our audience is to send people a digital gift card, right, for Bombas products, and spreading the word that way, so that more people who are homeless or the non-paying customers can really benefit from us doing that.
That's right.
I am so grateful for you took the time to speak with us, and I think the acts of kindness, the pixie dust that you're spreading, no, I like it. And, just saying hello to people on the street, just to smile. Yeah, you never want people to feel invisible. And, we are so fortunate in so many ways. So we have to sort of spread our good fortune to others, I think is what you're saying. So, Dave, I want to thank you so much for joining today and sharing this incredible story and what you're doing to change the planet. And so, as I said, this is one legacy. You'll have many, many more things to do. But yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time and being with us today.
Thank you so much, Janice. I appreciate you having me.
And thank you to our audience for listening to this game-changing conversation on Leadership Reimagined with David Heath. You can find me on Twitter, LinkedIn, or visit our website at elliggroup.com. Thank you for joining us today, and happy and safe holiday for everybody.